Spaces for Change, in collaboration with the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies, launched a report on Wednesday focusing on regulatory compliance for civil society organizations in the Gambia and Sierra Leone. The report examines the impact of security laws on civic space in West Africa and highlights the essential role of civil society organizations in counter-terrorism initiatives and humanitarian efforts for communities affected by violence, among others. Mariama Dem attended the event and she prepared this report.
The two-day event gathered key stakeholders, including civil society organizations, regulatory bodies, and subject matter experts, to discuss the report's findings and their implications for the compliance practices in the region. Titled Mapping Civil Society Engagement in Africa-Led Peace Operations, the report underscores the contributions of CSOs to counter-terrorism efforts and details notable initiatives across Africa, along with their successes, challenges, and recommendations. Key highlights of the report include the rise of African-led counter-terrorism initiatives, prompted by a staggering increase in terrorist-related deaths, which reached 23,322 in 2022. In response, countries in the Sahel-Saharan region and the Horn of Africa, the report says, have implemented national and multinational counter-terrorism initiatives aimed at restoring peace and fostering social and economic development. Since 2001, 38 African-led peace operations have been deployed across 25 countries, reflecting a growing sense of localized ownership in conflict management, it added. Victoria Ibizem O'Hare, the Executive Director of Spaces for Change, speaks on the security issues and laws enacted in West Africa, captured in the report, and how it affects human rights.
So there are two reports that we're launching today. The first report is the security first, the impact of security laws on civic space in West Africa. So why we say security first is simply saying countries are now putting security first above every other thing, including human rights. And there is a problem with that. And what is the problem with that? That is what the report is trying to look at. But context matters. We started by looking at the context of West Africa. How did these norms evolve? What is the genealogy of these laws? What were the triggers and drivers of the several security laws that have been enacted in Africa? And then we went down with incidents and examples about how these laws have been applied across West Africa, looking at some of the specific consequences on human rights, on the civic space, on the ability of civil society organizations to operate freely and in West Africa. Some of the definitions are so broad that everything can come under national security, even things that are not related to security. So it gives law enforcement a very wide latitude, a lot of discretion to bring in anything that is unrelated to security. So we saw in the report how disease can become a security issue. Journalistic responsibilities, free speech, press freedom, everything is framed as a national security issue, and there should not be.
The report also emphasizes collaboration among neighboring states at sub-regional, regional, and continental levels with organizations like the Group of Five for the Sahel Joint Force, the Alliance of Sahel States, and the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, exemplifying this cooperative approach to countering terrorism and restoring stability. Mrs. Hannah Foster, Executive Director of the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies, explains the significance of the report and how it will shape decisions on security matters in the sub-region, as well as protect the civic space.
Why security in West Africa is crucial is that in our work with civil society, it is imperative that we are able to know what obtains in the sub-region when it comes to security and human rights. Especially when we talk about civic space. We know that in the last few years, civic space has been shrinking, as they call it, and in other countries, civic space has been closed, so to speak. So for us to be able to make interventions, meaningful interventions, we need to carry out research that will give us the situation as is on the ground and to identify the gaps so that we are able to effectively make that those recommendations that will help us make the change. And it is for that reason that these publications that we've just launched are crucial, because they have lined out, looking at history, where we came from, where we are now, and how relevant it is for us to stay engaged, because the role of civil society is important, yes, and there's a lot of lip service to that. But then in many of the cases, you find out that not much is done to support the work of civil society. And such a report will highlight, as you can see, and has highlighted those areas that we need to put in more effort to be effective in our work.
While the document outlines the successes of localized peace operations, including securing international support and dismantling terrorist networks, it also identifies challenges such as dislodgement, lack of citizen support, mistrust among member states, and reliance on foreign funding. Commissioner Lita Musiyime Ogana of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights also said the primacy of the assessment and the need to build the capacity of civil society actors on compliance for better collaboration as far as the protection and promotion of human rights in Africa is concerned, despite the challenges.
I think the issue of training civil society on compliance is important. Because that also involves understanding how the African Commission for Human and People's Rights works. So when you understand that context, then it's easy for institutions to be able to work with us. We work with a lot of civil society. We have over 500 registered civil society with the Commission. And so the more they understand the issue of compliance, the easier it is for us to work with them. Because we come from a bureaucratic framework as well, the African Union. And so the better civil society understand how we work, the better it is for us to overlap.
The report highlights the crucial role of civil society organizations in supporting peace operations through conflict prevention, capacity building, and humanitarian assistance, as their contributions range from developing legal frameworks to promoting human rights compliance. Despite progress, gaps in localized peace operations, particularly the dependence on foreign support, which can lead to external interference. It critiques the influence of donor nations, warning against conflict management imperialism was also observed. The report underscores the vital role of civil society organizations in enhancing Africa-led peace operations and calls for sustainable, inclusive, and innovative approaches to peace building as aligning regional efforts with international support while maintaining African ownership is essential for fostering enduring peace and development across the continent. Mariama Dem, reporting for SATV News.